Max Brantley from the Arkansas Times on Thursday, February 23rd, another busy news day. Let's start with the Arkansas Supreme Court. It ruled unanimously this morning that a Fayetteville civil rights ordinance aimed at protecting civil rights for lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people ran afoul of a state law that was intended to prevent local ordinance that did just this sort of thing. The state legislature wants to preserve the right to discriminate against LGBT people. The court said that although that there are some protections in other state laws for LGBT people, that the state civil rights law doesn't include it, so the Fayetteville ordinance went too far. It struck it down. It sent it back to circuit court. However, the court did not rule on the broader constitutional question of the state law itself. That is an effort to discriminate against gay people constitutionally permissible in the United States. We'd hope the Supreme Court might decide that case differently if it gets it. That's likely to be raised at the local level. Mayor Little Rock Mark Stodler says, by the way, that Little Rock, which has a somewhat similar ordinance, it's different. It talks about gender, which is provided in the civil rights law, and it's also about doing business with people who discriminate. They won't. He says their ordinance is still legal. They still intend to enforce it, and they are ready to wage the fight in the name of equality, so good for him. Great event last night in Springdale. U.S. Senator Tom Cotton extended a town hall meeting with some 3,000 people at Springdale High for more than a half hour. It was raucous. It was heavily weighted by people who opposed Tom Cotton's action. Anybody who thinks Arkansas is a monolithic red state and that Northwest Arkansas is monolithically red needed only to look at last night's public hearing. He got tough questions, particularly on health care. He got questions on cutting money for public television. He got a strong demand from somebody who I think is known as a Republican in years past for a bipartisan investigation of the Trump administration ties to Russia. He wondered why, he was asked why, if Benghazi was so important and needed so many investigations, we couldn't have an open investigation of the Russian matter. Cotton gave a lot of general answers, not very many specifics. He didn't silence the crowd, that's for sure. I don't think it'll change Tom Cotton's mind. But the video made worldwide attention on TV channels everywhere. This is an important thing for people to know, that people are watching, that they are exercised. Another Supreme Court news story today. It issued an order this afternoon, something of a surprise, that said it was going to lift the suspension of Wade Naramore, the Hot Springs Circuit judge who was suspended after he was charged with negligent homicide in the hot car death of his son. He was acquitted of that charge, and on a motion from his attorney to be allowed to return to the bench, the Supreme Court said, okay, there's still a judicial discipline proceeding pending against him. There's some indication that perhaps the state is continuing to review a child abuse and neglect complaint arising out of that case. The Supreme Court did say he should no longer hear juvenile abuse and neglect cases, so that will remove that appearance of conflict of judging other parents in similar situations. Jason Rapert, what will he do next? He's doubled down today on fairly stupid legislation. Sorry to editorialize there. One piece of legislation would require the renaming of the Little Rock Airport. It can no longer be named for Bill and Hillary Clinton because it was named for them while they were still alive. Jason Rapert just doesn't like the Clintons. He says they're bad for business in Arkansas. Tell that to the Little Rock Convention and Visitors Bureau, which can enumerate billions of dollars in benefits from the Clinton Presidential Library. That name hadn't hurt us too much there. Rapert's also introduced a conscience for healthcare providers bill. This would allow people to cite moral reasons to deny services to people, not just doctors and nurses, but insurance companies wouldn't have to pay for people they disapproved of. I think we ought to have a bill that allows us to disapprove of people who don't follow Jesus' Sermon on the Mount about doing unto others as you do to yourself. Rapert professes to be a man of God. He sure seems to be possessed with a lot of hate of people who aren't like him or who disagree with him. The voter ID constitutional amendment came out of the House today and heads of the Senate. The Republicans are bound and determined to pass both statute and constitutional amendment that makes it harder to vote rather than easier. There was some good news today. An online filing bill on campaign contributions from Republican Jan De La Rosa got favorable approval in a Senate committee. That bill may pass. That's good news. It's more accountability in government. And Clark Tucker, the Democrat from Little Rock, has two good gun bills. One would make it a misdemeanor crime for parents to negligently allow children to use their guns in a bad way. That is, not keep them secure. If a child picked up a gun and shot somebody else because a parent hadn't looked after the gun carefully, that could be a misdemeanor. He's also filed a bill to make it a ground to take away somebody's ability to carry a gun if they've been convicted of domestic battery or stalking. Who could be against these things? Well, I think we know the answer. The gun lobby doesn't want any limitations on guns, no matter how irresponsible the people are who use them. The grocery store wine bill came out of a House committee late yesterday afternoon after we taped. This is the bill that allows grocery stores to sell any kind of wine from any state or country, not just local wines and small batch wines. It does include this SOP to retail liquor stores, who don't seem mollified, by the way, that would allow them to sell food. That's about it for today. I do want you to call your congressman from Little Rock, French Hill, and say, how about, why don't you have a town hall too and meet the public and see what you have to say? Be interesting to compare his stage presence with Tom Cotton, who did okay yesterday under the circumstances. He did appear at least, and I don't think we need to give people medals for doing their jobs as public servants, but he did let the people ask him questions. I'm Max Brantley. I'm still, I think, an enemy of the state as far as Tom Cotton's concerned, but I'll be back tomorrow.